For thousands of years, horses have lived beside humanity. They carried soldiers into battle, pulled wagons across continents, helped build civilizations, and eventually became athletes, companions, and partners in sport. And through all of that time, one sound has remained instantly recognizable across every culture on Earth: the neigh of a horse. It's a sound almost everyone knows. Even people who have never touched a horse can recognize it immediately. That sharp, emotional call can sound joyful, anxious, excited, lonely, demanding, or even desperate depending on the situation. Horse people hear it every day at barns and competitions. Wild horses use it across huge distances. Mares use it to call foals. Herd mates use it to locate one another. Stallions use it as a warning or challenge. And despite hearing this sound for centuries, scientists have never fully understood how horses actually produce it. Until now. A brand new scientific study has finally uncovered the secret behind the horse's neigh. And what researchers discovered is honestly astonishing. According to scientists, horses may possess one of the rarest vocal abilities ever documented in a large mammal. Researchers now believe horses are able to create two different sounds at the exact same time, using two separate mechanisms inside the throat. In simple terms, horses are simultaneously vocalizing and whistling together in a way that almost no other large animal can do. And once you understand how it works, the sound of a horse may never feel the same again. Because this discovery doesn't just explain a noise, it opens the door to a much deeper understanding of horse communication, horse emotion, and maybe even horse intelligence itself. The study, which was published in Current Biology, involved researchers using incredibly small cameras inserted through the nasal passage of horses so they could observe what was happening inside the animals' throats while they vocalized. It sounds almost unbelievable, but scientists literally filmed the inside of a horse's larynx while the horse neighed. And what they observed changed the scientific understanding of equine vocalization almost immediately. For years, researchers had struggled with one major question. Horses are very large animals, so according to normal biological rules, they should mainly produce deep, low-frequency vocal sounds. Usually the size of an animal strongly affects the sound of its voice. Large animals tend to have lower voices because they possess larger vocal structures. Think about elephants, cows, moose, or whales. Their calls are powerful and deep. Smaller animals usually create high-pitched sounds because their vocal anatomy is smaller. But horses never fully fit that role. A horse's neigh contains extremely deep tones, but at the same time, it also includes very high-pitched frequencies that almost sound like screaming or whistling layered over the top. Scientists couldn't fully explain how such a large animal was producing both sounds simultaneously. Now they finally know. The lower part of the neigh is produced in a fairly familiar way. Air moves through vibrating tissues in the larynx or voice box, creating low-frequency vocal sounds much like human speech or singing. That part was expected. Humans do something similar when we speak, sing, or shout. But the higher-pitched component of the horse's neigh turned out to be something much stranger. Researchers discovered that horses create a whistle-like sound inside the larynx itself, not with the lips, not with the mouth, not by forcing air through nostrils like human whistle. Instead, a tiny opening forms within the structure of the throat, allowing air to pass through in a way that creates a high-pitched whistle, while the deeper vocal tones continue underneath it at the exact same time. That means horses are essentially producing two independent sounds simultaneously. This phenomenon is called bifonation, and it is extraordinarily rare, especially in large animals. In fact, Scientists say horses may be one of the only large animals ever discovered capable of combining vocal vibration and whistling together in this specific way. Some birds can produce layer vocal sounds. Certain marine animals have unusual vocal systems. A few small mammals can create whistle-like frequencies, but horses appear to possess an entirely unique combination of vocal mechanisms that has almost never been documented before. And honestly, once you hear this explanation, suddenly the sound of a horse's neigh feels very different. Because it isn't just a random loud noise anymore. It's an incredible advanced acoustic system. What makes this system even more fascinating is that researchers believe this dual frequency system may help horses communicate emotional information more effectively. Scientists suspect that different frequencies may carry different types of information simultaneously. One part of the sound may communicate emotional intensity, while another may help indicate the emotional nature of the call itself. In other words, horses may be layering emotional meaning into their vocalizations in ways humans are only beginning to understand. And if you spent enough time around horses, that idea honestly feels believable. Because horses are deeply emotional animals. Anyone who has worked with them closely knows this already. Horses form attachment. They experience stress, they show fear, excitement, curiosity, frustration, and relaxation in ways that experienced horse people recognize immediately. They react differently to familiar individuals versus strangers. They call for companions when separated. Some horses scream when anxious. Others produce soft nickers when greeting trusted humans or herd mates. Mares and foals communicate constantly through vocalization. Stallions use powerful calls to establish presence and dominance. Horses are communicating all the time, both physically and vocally. But historically, humans may have underestimated just how sophisticated that communication really is. For decades, many scientists treated horse vocalizations as relatively simple, instructive noises. But modern equine behavioral science has increasingly challenged that assumption. Study after study has shown horses possess highly developed social awareness and emotional sensitivity. Researchers have already discovered that horses can recognize facial expressions, remember emotional experiences, distinguish human voices, and respond differently depending on the emotional state of both humans and horses. Now, this new discovery about the horse's neigh adds another layer to that growing body of evidence. Because suddenly, the horse's vocal system appears far more advanced than anyone realized. And evolution may explain why. Horses evolved as prey animals living in open environments where herd survival depended heavily on coordination and communication. A horse isolated from the herd is vulnerable. Maintaining contact over large distances would have been extremely important for survival. In open grasslands, vocal communication could help horses locate one another, warn of danger, maintain social bonds, or coordinate movement. A layered vocal system capable of traveling long distances while carrying emotional information could provide enormous survival advantages. And perhaps that's exactly why this ability evolved. Researchers also examined Przewalski's horses, which are considered to be the last truly wild horse species still in existence today. Interestingly, they found similar vocal mechanizations in these horses as well. That suggests this vocal ability likely developed long before modern domestication and may be deeply rooted in horse evolution itself. But what makes this discovery even stranger is that closely related animals like zebras and donkeys apparently do not possess the same exact vocal mechanism. That raises a massive evolutionary question. Why horses specifically? Why would horses develop this incredible rare ability while their relatives did not? Scientists still do not know the answer fully. But many researchers suspect it may be related to specific social structures and communication needs horses evolved with over thousands and thousands of years. And honestly, this discovery feels like one of those moments that reminds us how much humans still do not fully understand about animals we think we know so well. Because horses have lived beside humanity for so long that many people assume we already know everything important about them. But we clearly don't. Even now, science continues uncovering new layers of equine biology, cognition, emotion, and communication. We are learning more about how horses experience stress, more about how they process memory, more about how they interpret human body language, more about pain, recognition, more about social hierarchy, more about emotional regulation, and now more about how they literally produce sound. The old stereotype that horses are simple animals is disappearing rapidly. Modern research paints a very different picture. And for horse people, this discovery may feel strangely validating. Because many riders, trainers, and caretakers have long believed horses communicate far more emotionally and intelligently than science previously acknowledged. Anyone who stood beside a nervous horse calling desperately for a companion knows those vocalizations feel emotional. Anyone who has ever heard a mare calling softly to her foal understands instinctively that these sounds carry meaning. Anyone who has worked around competition horses knows their vocalizations change depending on stress, excitement, and relaxation. Now science is finally beginning to catch up to what horse people have sensed for generations. The horse's neigh is not just noise. It is a biologically complex vocal signal built through evolution, social behavior, survival needs, and emotional communication. And honestly, that makes the sound of a horse even more incredible than before. Because every time a horse neighs across a field, you are hearing something extraordinary, rare in nature. You are hearing a massive animal simultaneously producing layered vocal frequency using a mechanism scientists barely understood until now. You are hearing an ancient communication system that evolved over countless generations, long before humans ever climbed onto a horse's back. And perhaps the most fascinating part is that we still may only understand a small fraction of what horses are actually communicating to one another. This research could eventually lead to entirely new ways of understanding equine emotion and welfare. Scientists may one day analyze vocal patterns to measure stress levels, anxiety, social bonding, or emotional states. Researchers may discover that certain frequency combinations communicate specific meanings between horses. Trainers and veterinarians may eventually use vocal analysis as another tool to elevate horse welfare and emotional health. And considering how rapidly equine science has evolved over the last decade, honestly, that future may not be very far away. The more researchers study horses, the more extraordinary they seem to become, which is perhaps the perfect reminder that even animals humans have lived beside for thousands of years can still surprise us. So the next time you hear a horse neigh, stop for a moment and really listen, because you are not just hearing a loud call across a pasture. You are hearing one of the rarest vocal systems ever discovered in a large mammal. You are hearing vibration and whistling layered together into a single sound. You are hearing evolution, emotion, survival, and communication, all combined into one unmistakable voice. And honestly, that may make the sound of a horse more magical than ever before. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, I am not AI. If you listen closely, you can hear me breathing.